Okay, I'm going to keep reading Mystery on Mackinac Island. The next chapter is called The Paint Clue. So we know there's a little bit about the thief is painting out the numbers on the bike so that it can't be traced and figure out where they came from. So a little bit more about that in this listening for details, trying to help me figure out who is the thief. Hunter was so stunned by Miss Whittrick's reaction that for a minute he stood on the doorstep like a carved wooden Indian. Then he picked up his bike and went home. Back at the cabin, he sat down and made a new list in his notebook. Number 1, mysterious path to the basement door. Number 2, door locked inside, no stairs to the basement. Number 3, green rental stolen from old Doc. 4, fresh green paint here, used to cover the ID number? ? Number 5, last night, goofy guy at haunted house. Could he open the locked door? Is he the one who smashed my window? Number 6, same guy at old house again. Rode off on green bike, fast. I followed, he disappeared at Whittrick's. 7, when I asked Miss Whittrick about him, she nearly had a fit and slammed the door in my face. Absorbed with these threads of mystery, Hunter was startled by a knock at the door. Feeling jittery, he opened it just a crack. There was Greg, looking scared to death. What do you want? Hunter growled at him. I gotta tell you something. I already know you're a spy, you think, he said. Yeah, Greg admitted in a little voice, but that's not all. Hunter let him in and stood with his arms crossed over his chest, glaring down at the boy. Greg ran his tongue over his lips, then the words came tumbling out. Kirby's been gambling. He's up to his neck in debt. That's why he has to win the reward. He promised me for $2 a day to follow you and find out what I found out. That figures, Hunter said. Go on. Greg burst out angrily. Kirby double-crossed me. 3 days I rode my legs chasing you and Rusty, and now he's mad because I didn't learn anything, and he won't pay me my money. So? Hunter demanded. I want to get even with him, Greg cried. I want to help you find the bikes before he does. Not doing, Hunter answered. You can just quit bugging us. Disappointed, Greg retreated to the porch. There he stopped, and with curiosity and awe in his voice, he asked, How do you disappear like you do all the time? None of your business, the older boy said. In the morning, Rusty exploded with excitement over the new developments. Was the man on the green bike the clubfoot guy? No, this guy was wearing army fatigues and soft shoes. He runs and rides kind of bent over like he's scared. How come you didn't get his license number? The tag was under the seat and didn't show. Rusty had other questions. What kind of folks are the Whittricks? Hunter spoke thoughtfully. They mostly keep to themselves and don't make trouble, but... He stopped. But what? Well, Miss Whittrick knows something, and she's scared. Rusty offered a theory. Maybe the thief is blackmailing her or her father, and so he can ride on their place. Hunter was not impressed. That kind of thing just doesn't happen here on Mackinac. How do you know? Rusty answered. We've got to check every angle. But something seems weird to me. Why would the thief hide bikes so far from town? Yeah, the other agreed, and how does he plan to get them to the mainland to sell them? As he spoke, suddenly Hunter saw in his mind the old rotting dock at British Landing. Hey, maybe he's taking them away from the dock where we swim. You've got it, Rusty yelled. Remember we saw the man on Jancy's bike? He was headed this way? Hunter frowned. I kind of think we've forgotten that guy. We've got to forget that guy and zero in on a new suspect. They could be working together, Rusty suggested. Maybe. Anyway, I think we ought to see who's buying spray paint this season. They moved off toward the hardware store to do this. Hunter told his partner about Greg's visit, and Rusty just snorted. Serves that kid right. His face grew thoughtful, and he added, I'm glad he turned him down. I bet he's still working for Kirby and was just trying to be a double agent. Nuts, Hunter laughed. You just watch too many spy shows on TV. At the store, Hunter got permission to look through all the sales slips, saying he had a project to do that involved sale of paint. The slips were in an old shoebox, and most of them had been written in pencil. Checking them was slow and boring. Most paint had been bought in big quantities by hotels and boarding houses, also by some of the summer people. The first sale of spray paint in small cans had been made to Mr. French. "Hey, that's the beacon light manager," Rusty cried. "I'll keep my eye on him." "He's not stealing bikes," Hunter told him, "and I used that paint on Saturday on the fence around the garbage cans." So they kept going in their search. The only other sale of spray paint had been made to someone named Ivan Schmidt. "Who is he?" Rusty asked. "I've never heard of him, but he did buy all the right colors." "What do you mean?" Hunter said, "Well, the notebook shows that the rentals stolen so far are either all red, green, or black, and that's exactly what this person bought." "Wow," Rusty exclaimed. "You are something else. I didn't even notice that. Why do you suppose the thief hasn't stolen bikes from other colors?" "I don't know, but we need to track down Mr. Ivan S." They showed the sales clerk the slip. He didn't know anything about it. So they went to the store manager, Mr. Naughton. He looked at Ivan's name and scratched his head. "I sold the guy the paint, but I don't know anything about him." "You don't know where he lives or who he works for?" "No, I'm afraid not." "Please try to remember," Rusty urged. "We need to find him." Mr. Naughton wrinkled his forehead. "I remember I was really busy. The store was crazy busy. The guy just picked the cans off the shelf, came to the register, and paid cash." "What kind of guy was he?" Hunter asked. "He was young, maybe a college student." A customer called the manager then, so the boys left the store. A college student," Hunter was muttering. "I wonder if he's working somewhere, or if he's just on the island trying to make easy money by stealing bikes. Maybe we should phone all the hotels and ask if he's registered there." "No way," Rusty exclaimed. "It costs a bundle to stay at a place like the Beacon Light. A guy desperate enough to steal bikes would not be able to afford staying in a hotel." "Yeah, you're right," Hunter agreed. "How about the boarding houses?" "That's maybe a better bet," Rusty said. "Where can we go to call?" "Do you have a phone in your room at the hotel?" Hunter asked. "No," came the answer, "but we could ride to your place and phone from there." This struck Hunter as funny. Having a telephone in Grandfather's cabin? It was only a couple of years ago that the city council had insisted that Grandfather put electricity in. A telephone? Keeping his face very sober, Hunter folded his arms over his chest, stood as straight and tall as an Indian, and said with the best trace of his Indian accent, "Sorry, paleful face with sunset hair. No talking wire at old Chief's teepee." Rusty was startled into silence, staring at his friend, and then he bust out laughing, and the boys cracked up together. At last, Hunter caught his breath and said, "Maybe we could use the phone at the library. Let's go ask." It was only a block to the library. They locked their bikes behind the small building that held the library on the first floor and Mrs. Purcell's apartment up above. She was delighted to meet Rusty and hear what they were doing. They told her about the paint clue and asked if she knew an Ivan Schmidt. "I don't," she said. "We need to find out where he lives so we can shadow him," said Rusty. Hunter added, Hunter added, "We want to phone the boarding houses, but we don't even know who runs them." The librarian just smiled. "I have just what you need, a brochure about places to stay on the island. Even has phone numbers. Would you like to use my phone?" In a few minutes, they were busy in her tiny office making phone call after phone call, but the results were disappointing. There was no Ivan S. registered anywhere. The boys told Mrs. Purcell they didn't know what they should do next. "Do you have any other clues or any other suspect?" "You bet," Rusty answered. "Hunter, tell her about the bent-over guy." I will read the rest in part 2.